You know, you hear over the radio, we're taking fire, we're under fire.
We're under fire.
And you hear the pleading in their voices.
You can hear it.
That they need help bad.
I actually dropped to a knee, and then I'm like, why the hell did I do that? And that's when the rocket hit.
Roan had a machine gun, and he started laying down hay.
I rolled him over. There was no response. I ripped off his body armor, took a pulse, couldn't feel nothing.
When you realize they're dead, what do you do?
I just kind of said a prayer over both of them.
I grew up out on the farm, rode horses as much as I could, and worked with cattle. My mom had a book that asked what your career would be or what you wanted to grow up to be, and mine was always either a police officer, a firefighter, or a soldier. It was December of 1983 when I actually signed up. I wanted to be in the infantry because that's where you get to do all the fun stuff. When I got out of the military, I started working as a police officer. And then after that, I picked up a job as chief of police in a small town and then moved on to contracting after that. Well, I got to Benghazi and I was going to be there for 60 days. That was my first time into Libya.
I remember walking through our university, and there was an Army recruiter, and he picked me out of a crowd, and he said, "Hey, what are you going to do after college?" He showed me a Ranger video, and I asked him, I said, "Is that looks pretty tough? Is it hard?" And he said, "Man, you got to be pretty tough to get in it. That's what I want to do. If a lot of people can't do it, I want to do that." In 2003, I was medically discharged, and out of the blue, I got a call from Blackwater. They were just starting, saying, "Hey, we're looking for contractors to go to Iraq." And I said yes. I got the call to go to Libya was early 2012.
Did he help you? 3rd grade. That's when we lived across the street from the recruiting station. I mean, it just kind of kept going there. I chose the Marine Corps because I always hear they're always the toughest guys, so I tried out for the toughest one I could find. Got out actually about 2 months before I got totally bored. I had to go find work. I ended up getting a job in heating and air conditioning. I did that until I got into contracting. The first time that I actually went there to Libya, I went into Tripoli. That was my first trip. And the second time I went back, and the third time, the fourth time, they're all in Benghazi.
This attack lasted 13 hours. 4 people died, including our ambassador, and it was on 9/11. So I want you to take us back to the beginning. For people who don't know this job, you know, contractors, I mean, how do you explain it to them?
Private security contractors. And for us, it was protection. It was protecting CIA case officers overseas, doing low-profile protection.
How did the hierarchy work here?
Well, you have the chief of base. He's the main guy who's in charge, and then you have our...
Now, that was Bob?
Yes. And then you have the team lead, which would be in charge of us.
You know, our team leader is a staffer. He's an employee for the agency, and then all us contractors are like, if you talk it military-wise, we're like the enlisted folks.
Other members of your team are not here. Obviously, Tyrone Woods, who you called Roan. There are 2 other members who remain anonymous, right?
Yes, correct.
Jack and DB.
Correct, yes.
So you were set up to protect the annex, which was the CIA.
The personnel at the annex, yes.
This gives us a perspective of the other facility there, which was what you guys call the consulate. Where are we here?
Here's the consulate, and then here's us. Here's our compound.
So pretty close. About
3/4 of a mile as a crow flies. About I'd say mile drive, if
maybe
a mile, if you did the whole thing.
So this site, was it well protected?
Ooh, who wants to take that one?
No, it looked nice. It was a beautiful compound. I mean, it had orchards, had a really nice house, had a swimming pool.
They had their own security.
They were their own security.
They were their own, yeah.
Diplomatic security.
The diplomatic security. They didn't have like an American force, like a Marine detachment. They did it themselves.
So what'd you tell them?
Me and my bluntness, I said, you know, if you guys get attacked, you guys are going to die. You know that, right? And I remember I said, if you ever need us, you just call us. We'll come get you. What's
your reaction when you hear the ambassadors coming to Benghazi on September 10th, September 11th, of all days?
And you were like thinking, you know, there's only 5 guys to protect him, and that's a huge compound.
All right, so 9/11 comes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty routine day, it sounds like.
Yeah,
during the day?
It was actually normal day, just doing normal task stuff, task organization stuff.
You had to move late, I guess it was late in the afternoon? Or
late afternoon, early evening. Went out to meet some people for dinner. Normal night. Town looked normal. There was nothing that looked any different than any other day.
And there was no whisper that this video was a major problem in Benghazi or something?
Didn't know about video until I got to Germany. No idea about any video, no. No, sir.
All right, so how do you hear that something's wrong?
Our team leader, he actually came across the radio, and I remember, I looked at my watch, and it was 9:32 when I got the call, first got the call on the radio that said, hey, you know, we need all GRS.
GRS? What is that? GRS operators?
Global Response Staff.
Global Response Staff, yep. And I remember I looked at DB and said, hey, something's going on. We're going to do something tonight. Just grabbed my stuff, threw my shoes on, and started moving to our team room.
Where were you?
Myself and Jack were in Building D. I was just getting undressed, getting ready to go to bed.
I meet the TL about halfway, about right there, and I said, hey, man, what's happening? And he goes, a console center attack. You can start hearing the fire, the actual concentration of fire and some explosions.
It was a relatively quiet night in Benghazi, and by 9 o'clock, the 7 Americans in the compound are settling down for the night. You've got the ambassador in his room, writing in his diary. You've got Sean Smith, the communications expert, online talking with a friend. And you've got 5 diplomatic security agents. Somewhere around 30 or 40 minutes later, men stream onto the compound, bearing AK-47s, chanting in Arabic, shooting off their guns. Almost instantly, they've overrun the compound. The 17 February militiamen who were supposed to be guarding the compound, they just flee.
Now, you're ready to go.
5 minutes, we're ready. Thumbs up, we're ready to go.
Then what happens?
I went up to the TL and I said, hey, we're ready to go. Bob looks right through me and looks at the team leader and goes, you guys need to wait. He's on the phone talking to somebody. I assumed they were trying to coordinate us to link up with 17 February.
Which is the local militia.
Which is the local militia.
It had probably been 15 minutes, I think, and I got out of the car, and Bob and the team lead were standing on the front porch, and I just said, hey, you know, we need to get over there. We're losing the initiative, you know. And Bob just looked straight at me and said, stand down, you need to wait.
We're starting to get calls from the State Department, guys, saying, hey, we're taking fire. We need you guys here. We need help.
Yeah, we were talking about it in the cars.
On our radios, what the hell's going on? Why are we waiting?
Ambassador Stevens and Sean Smith are forced to take refuge in a specially protected area, the safe haven inside the villa. With them is Scott Wickland, a security agent charged with protecting the ambassador. They hide behind a locked gate. Wickland waits in the shadows with a rifle, ready to shoot anyone who tries to enter. The attackers can't get in, but use nearby diesel fuel to set the villa on fire. From beginning to when you're ready to go, thumbs up, you're ready to go out, to the time when you actually pull out, what's that time frame?
It's close to 25 minutes. I went up to Bob. I said, hey, we need to go. And got the weight again. And I got in my car. I told the TL, get in the back seat. And looked at Ron. He gave me a thumbs up. I gave him a thumbs up. And we left.
And you guys did that pretty much on your own.
Yes, we did. We were never given the okay to go. We got the final straw for us to go, at least that's my opinion, and how I felt was where one of the DS agents said, hey, they're starting to light the buildings on fire. You guys need to get here.
They used the word stand down. A number of people now, including the House Intelligence Committee, they insist no one was hindered from responding to the situation at the compound. The committee's wording was, quote, there was no stand-down order given to American personnel attempting to offer assistance that evening. So what do you say to that?
No, it happened.
It happened on the ground. All I can talk about is what happened on the ground that night.
To you?
To us. To myself twice, and to Tig once. It happened that night. That happened. We were told to wait and stand down. We were delayed 3 times.
You asked for support.
After I was leaving, I said, well, get us an ISR, which is a UAV, a drone, and get us a Spectre gunship.
So the drone would have given you eyes
on.
Above.
Yep, giving us
and
advantage.
The AC-130.
Support, protection, and
firepower.
Exactly. I still remember it. It gives me kind of chills. It says, they're lighting the buildings on fire. If you guys do not get here, we're going to die.
Scott Wickland leads Ambassador Stevens and Sean Smith to a spot in the bathroom inside the safe haven. The window there is barred, and acrid smoke billows into the area. He hopes to get them to a nearby bedroom, which has a window that can be opened from the inside. He says, follow me, and crawls toward that spot. It's dark and smoky, but he makes it to the window. He opens it and drops out. Only then does he realize Stevens and Smith haven't followed. He goes back in several times, but can't find them. Finally, exhausted and choking, he climbs to the roof and radios Alec Henderson and Dave Ubben, 2 security agents elsewhere inside the compound. His message? The ambassador and Sean Smith are missing. Now, Tig, you and Jack and Roan are going the front gate.
Yes.
And it's open?
When I was standing right here, and a Land Cruiser came from this direction, I thought it was like bad guys stealing the Land Cruiser, so I drew down my weapon. Then I saw it was the DS guys were actually driving it. And that's when I heard, hey, you know, we can't find the ambassador. So I started moving towards the front porch, getting up on the front porch, and that's when they're pulling Sean's body out of the window.
Sean Smith.
Sean Smith.
But the ambassador's still lost.
The ambassador's still lost.
Yeah.
Tig, you and Tyrone Woods, Roan, go into the building one of many times, but go in, and there's a moment there.
He was saying, hey, I can't find my way out. I could just say, come to my voice, but he almost made another right into where the, I think it was a dining room, and it was just totally engulfed in flames. I reached out, grabbed him, and said, this way, and we just went out and coughed up a couple lungs.
Now, Tonto, you're back here with DB.
Yes. I looked at one of the Libyan guards in the back. He goes, Mister, come open the gate, open the gate. So I came back, I opened up the gate, I looked at the commander. I said, when you come through this gate, you close it, you lock it. And I moved forward, and as we find later, that he didn't do that. And we paid for it. We paid for it down the road.
You've been there for a while now, and you can't find the ambassador. You've been in multiple times. Yep. Then you hear gunfire from outside the compound. And then rocket-propelled grenade.
All of a sudden, a big explosion. Bam. Just huge.
Where's it hit?
It was over in this area. So it's basically on the other side of where we were all trying to mass and collect and get out. And another explosion goes off, and it's coming from the gate that
was left
open. And I just started returning fire.
I was inside the safe haven. That's when I heard the explosion and the gunfire started cracking off.
And what'd you do?
I moved from here over to here, crouched all the way down. It was the same time a guy with an RPG moved into the view of the gate, and that's what he was coming up here shooting, and he'd run away, come up here, shoot, run away. And just as he was shooting, I shot him.
You shot him, he went down.
And then it was just weird. It's like a light switch. Everything stopped.
So you guys finally get together. You, give up the search for the ambassador?
The team leader, he made the call, and we'd done everything that, Tig had been in that house, Jack had been in the house so many times. The State Department guys had now left the compound. They were gone. They were on their way back to ours.
Roan tells him, make sure you take a left. And then in the confusion of the counterattack,
yes,
they take a right.
Take a right. I said to myself, well, I can't say what I said to myself on camera, but it was, damn, you knuckleheads. Now we're holding a piece of property that basically there's nobody else on.
The TL, he just comes over the radio, say, everybody get down, we're getting out of here.
While they were jocking up, Roan calls me on the cell phone, tells me, you need to get back to base and just stay away from the consulate.
So you tell the case officer, we're going to wrap up this day?
Yeah, she's trying to say her goodbyes, and I'm like, we need to go now. And like any good case officer, she's trying to gather information on what's going on. Then I just looked at her and said, you know what, you're in my world now, you need to be quiet, because let me do what I need to do.
Now, you have been back on the compound in the annex for a while. You said before you felt like you wanted to be with your team, but you also knew you had a job to do there.
I knew I was the only one. I mean, we had two site security officers. They were a great help, but from the GRS side, I was the only one that was there.
The DS guys come back first.
Yes.
The armored car held up, but they roll in.
Yeah, I could hear when they were leaving, they announced it over the radio, and then I heard tons of gunfire and knew kind of where they were at just from the direction. And then all of a sudden they're calling that they're coming in.
Hot.
Coming in hot, which means they're coming in fast.
Just have the gate ready.
Have the gate open. You hear that flop flop sound of the tires just, you know, they're on run flats, but you still hear that sound coming through, and both sides in the front windscreen were all shot up. You could see the relief on their face once they got in. Scott got out. He looked like a chimney sweep. He was still black almost from head to toe. I told him to get inside, get some medical help. The other guys asked what they could do, and I told them to get up on the various buildings. And we had one get up on each one of these buildings here, and I went back up on this building until our guys come in. They knew where they needed to go. So each one of them went to their pre-positioned or pre-planned positions. Jack is up on this roof, Roan's up here.
DB. Yeah, Tano and DB
Tano and DB are here. Tig is over in this corner initially, and I'm over in this corner over here.
You guys are exhausted.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, some of you probably have smoke inhalation, and you're preparing maybe for another fight.
But now, we know, just gut feeling we're going to get attacked, and my adrenaline went back up. And so
it wasn't long after they had showed up, you start hearing tires screeching over in this area. And we started asking over the radio to the TL if Feb 17 is coming over to assist us. And then the response was they're not sure. So we immediately assumed that anything that's coming in is coming in that are bad guys.
I asked the status of the Spectre gunship, and the teamer came across the radio and said, hey, you know, checking on it, and that's the last time that I got an actual answer if we're going to get any support or not.
I was expecting at least some kind of air support, even if it was just a flyover by a jet or whatever.
Sometimes that's all it takes. It gets the bad guys down.
And no doubt that would have been nice.
I want to put this back up here just so you can describe what's outside the annex that you're most concerned about.
The stockyards. You have stockyards, and this is lot of concealment. There's a lot of bushes and small trees in this area, and this is what we call zombie land, basically, this whole area.
Most of the activity we're hearing is coming over from right at this intersection.
Yeah, they're starting to stage here in this whole area. This is just a big open parking lot. And here's the house that we're seeing people start to go into that little area.
And they can come into here, and it gives them access to our back gate.
So you're watching this develop in these cars and the people going into this house that you don't really know if it's bad guys or not. And what's the engagement? You're going to wait till they fire on you?
Wait until we see action from them that specifies them being attacking us or going to attack us. I'm not going to wait to get hit before I hit back. We start seeing movement coming from this direction through the night vision goggles.
The caveat here is this house had kids in there that would actually come and pester us every once in a while. You just didn't want to open fire. You didn't want to. I don't want to shoot somebody that doesn't have it coming to them, and it's definitely don't want to shoot a child. They were starting to move up on us, and I remember DB says, "Hey, I got movement."
Are you lasing them?
Oh yeah, I've got my laser, and I am lasing targets. Saying, "Hey guys, I'm picking out targets, people I see." And I got on the radio with Oz and Tig. I said, "You seeing what I'm seeing?" And he goes, "Yeah, I got your laser."
Now, can they see it?
No, only with night vision.
At this point, when they're moving up, in my mind, they're getting ready to be. We're going to engage them. We're just going to let them get as close as possible, and then take them out. The first thing they fired was a RPG, and it went flying over the compound.
Came over our myself and DB's head.
I was bringing water over to Oz. I got about right here, about the corner of the gym, when a gelatina.
It's a huge flash bang.
Yeah, it's a homemade explosive.
So it goes off. It hit right here, just inside.
To them,
to me, it was just okay. It's on, and we just started fighting, started lighting them up. And I was just lasing targets, shooting targets, and shooting them.
The firefight starts. What does that look like?
It's gorgeous, man.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's a green hue, and with the lasers dancing back and forth from target to target, you see 3-4 sets of lasers just bouncing back and forth, taking out targets, and you'll see a flash of light, which is the enemy shooting at you, and hear the rounds going past your head, and you're just re-engaging in those spots.
Anybody take a hit?
Yeah, me and Tig were up on this in this corner, and they were trying to shoot out the lights, and secondary from one of the rounds hitting the wall, or one of the lights splattered up into my face and cut me across the top of the bridge of the nose.
So you push back, you obviously take down a lot of people, and it stops.
To me, and that's how I explain it, it's hey, we won that game. All right, good deal. Morale goes up. I think all of us could feel it. That it still wasn't over yet. That was just the probe. That was just they're going to see our defenses, and they're going to be coming back with a bigger force, because that's what we would do.
But there's a big break there then.
Big break.
2 hours?
Yeah.
2.5 hours? Yeah.
At what point do you hear about Ambassador Stevens?
There was a DS agent up on the building with Jack and Scott Wicklund, and he got a phone call. And that's how we found out that he was at the hospital.
By 1 a.m., local looters and curiosity seekers have entered the consulate grounds and infiltrated the safe haven. 6 apparently good Samaritans come across an unresponsive man. They take him to the Benghazi Medical Center, where he's worked on for 45 minutes before being declared dead. They have Scott Wicklund's phone, which had been given to Ambassador Stevens during the attack. Calling Wicklund's stored numbers, someone gets to the American embassy in Tripoli and says a man has been found and he's dead. The caller provides a description matching Ambassador Chris Stevens.
There's a car pulls up and parks right here. A guy comes around from the side of the car, and he's reaching like he's throwing something. And right as he brings his arm back to throw, I engage him. I move and shoot him 2 to 3 times. He goes down, and whatever he threw landed just short of our back gate and exploded, which then engaged. Again, it was
the signal.
The signal.
And this was bigger. It was it was a larger force coming through. There was, I'd say, between 20 cars.
And again, we just started engaging the threats as they appeared and taking them out.
They were like ducks in a row at a shooting gallery, hitting one guy in the head and dropping.
But it's like bursts of fire.
But it's not.
They were kind of spraying. They were just constantly spraying.
We are doing control bursts. You aim, you shoot. You aim, you shoot. It's not the movies. You don't flip it on fully auto and you go after it because you can't hit anything. You're aiming a single shot, and you're shooting until they turn tail and run.
So far you've taken AK fire, you've taken RPGs.
Yep.
Are you worried that something heavier is coming?
Yes. After the second?
Second.
Yes.
You're waiting for a third.
Waiting for something bigger. During that second attack, that's when I actually finally got a chance to sit down. All you can think of is, what was the last conversation that I had with my spouse or my kids? Was it good? Was it bad? And
What was yours?
It was good. You always want to make, especially overseas, you want to make that last conversation always good.
When was it?
It was the night before. So I knew I had spoken with them, and hey, that's it. Get them out your head. It's time for you to back on the job.
Roan had just come back up, and we'd been sitting up there talking, because we both had young kids.
Roan had extended, but he was looking forward to going.
Yeah, he was looking.
That was his last trip.
He wanted to see getting to see his baby.
I had twins.
He had twins.
What's he telling you?
Every day and 2 or 3 times a day we would Skype and send photos and videos of the twins. Whenever I was expecting a phone call and didn't get one, that's when you start to worry a little bit.
All right, you guys good? We always emailed or talked on the phone, and he would always call around 3, 4 p.m. our time, always. And if he didn't, I knew ahead of time why he wasn't going to be able to call.
We'd talk every day, whenever time would allow, and most often the same time every day. If he didn't call me, you know, at the time he was supposed to call me, then, you know, I would begin to worry.
That's one of the reasons I'm fighting. It's one of the reasons I'm doing what I do. Not only for the people here, for the family back home, but primarily you're thinking about the team.
And that's your
And their family.
And their family, because their family, I mean, we're all family now. We're all brothers, and that's the way it is. And, I mean, so you're thinking of this family here as much as that family there.
Most of the people are staged here in C.
I ended up on top of the command center in Building C, had with Roan at this point.
More cars come by. What happens then?
We don't know what they're doing. We don't know if they were guys that lost or they were still trying to probe us.
And there's a guy with a cell phone.
Yeah. And he just walked up, cell phone, and walked back. Maybe he was getting GPS coordinates with his phone. Again, it's just another thing in Benghazi. It's eerie. I want to shoot him, but is he just some guy taking a walk? Weird things are still happening that night. We're trying to think that, all right, morale's up, we're out of this, we're good, we fought him off again. I was expecting, more cars. It was actually, the first convoy was quite small, but I was just, honestly, I was just happy to see him. 3 of the guys I'd worked with before, so I recognized them off the bat. And
including Glenn,
including
Doherty.
Bub, yeah.
Navy
Navy
SEAL,
SEAL,
connection with Roan, with Jack, and you had worked with
In fact, Bub and I had just done a trip in Tripoli before Benghazi. I just knew Bub from contracting.
Okay, so they come in, they go to Building C.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are still kind of waiting for what's happening.
The aircraft that they had wasn't big enough to take us all back. So they were going to take the non-shooting personnel and get them out.
To the airport.
Yes.
To the airport. We were going to stay there and hold the Alamo. And
literally.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. And I think they'd probably been there about an hour. Me and Roan were talking about that, wondering, what's taking so long? Why aren't we getting out of here? The sun was starting to come up, but it was, we better be ready for another attack because this is when it's going to come. It was about that time that Glenn came up on the roof.
Climbed up the ladder?
And come over and was talking to Roan, and Roan had introduced me to Bub because I had never worked with him before. He says, yeah, Bub's a sniper. And I'm like, well, hopefully we ain't going to need you, but I'm glad to have another shooter up here. Bub turned and was walking back towards the front of the building, and almost immediately a mortar come in and landed on top of the wall right there.
When I heard it, and I didn't even know I heard it. It basically sounded like when a rocket goes off, and it's
Small arms fire started coming from this direction. Roan had a machine gun, and he stood in probably like a 3/4 crouch position and just started laying down hate. Laying hate down through this avenue of approach from here. I started to engage with him. I ran out of ammo, knelt down, changed magazines, and right as I'm coming up, and I start to re-engage, another mortar hits almost to the center of the building here. And that one, it knocked me back, and that's what hit Roan. Roan was standing to my left. I got knocked back, and as I stood back up, I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and he was in a fetal position in the corner right here. I stand up and try to re-engage with my rifle, and I bring my hand up, and from here down is hanging off at a 90-degree angle.
Your hand is just hanging, flop.
Yeah. I just keep trying to bring it up, and it won't stay. You can't make it work. And that's when the second round hit. That's when I saw Bub go down about right here. I wasn't sure if he was hit or if he was just taking cover. And then I turned back and again tried to engage and get my hand to come up, and a third round hits in the same vicinity. And at that point, I mean, I just felt like I got hit by stung by 1,000 bees just up and down my side. And I figure I better get to some cover now in case another one comes. And the whole night went quiet after that.
That's tough to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, just a little.
I bet.
Yeah. But, you know, it's what has to be done. I mean, you're in a fight, you got to stay in the fight. That's the only thing I could think of is Roan's down. Somebody needs to continue firing.
And you see this mortar attack happen. What are you doing?
I'm still, I'm over here on Tower 3, still, you know, covering this area. To me, it looked like it hit like right around here. We had no cover for mortar attacks. I mean, even in the buildings, I'm surprised that one didn't collapse. Another explosion hits right here. When I heard another thump, that's when I jumped off the tower, moved back, got somewhere right around here, and that's when the mortar hit. And once that mortar hit, it was pitch black and dead quiet. Jack came over and said, "Hey man, there's no movement," and that's when I sprinted to the ladder, and then I just kind of skiddied on up as fast as I could, jumped over the parapet, and that's when I saw Dave Ubin off to my left. Looked like somebody in the center, and then a couple other people maybe over here, but it was a lot. The smoke was still up there from just the debris kind of settling down, and so I moved over to Dave. I find a tourniquet because Dave's leg was pretty much completely severed off. I think it was just barely hanging on by a thread, and same with his arm.
Some ligaments, yeah.
So got the tourniquets on him, called back on the radio, say, "Hey, I need help up here. You know, I need help." I heard noise, so I moved over to where the noise was, and
I was trying to get a tourniquet out, put on myself, and then I saw him.
Meanwhile, your hand is still flopped down.
Yeah. So I pulled out the tourniquet, and I was just trying to fix my arm. I just kept grabbing it, trying to put it back in place. And
he's just sitting there kind of going, "Hey, check this out," and his arm is, you know, it's just, I'm like, "Dude, you need to stop. You're going to make it worse."
Stop playing with it.
So I
was bored.
He had his tourniquet there, reached down, grabbed his tourniquet, threw it on him real quick, stood him up.
He asked me if I could get down or get over to the ladder, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to, because I knew there was others that were down.
Meanwhile, you're pretty banged up.
Yeah, just a little bit. I got hit in the chest, up and down my side, got hit in the throat, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll have to. And so I hooked my top arm around the top rung of the ladder and just climbed over and was concentrating on just thinking, you know, if I fall now, I'm going to break my neck and die, and that's the last thing I want to do. So I'm just concentrating on getting my feet on that rung, and sure enough, I slipped, and luckily I had my arm, and I caught myself and pulled myself back up, got down, and then was able to inch my way down the ladder.
After I got Oz up and moving, I went straight back to Roan. He was still in the fetal position. I rolled him over. There was no response. I ripped off his body armor and tried to, got that off. Took a pulse. Couldn't feel nothing. Got the flashlight shining in his eyes. No pupil movements. No dilation. Put my ear to his chest and tried to see if his chest was going up and down, if I could hear a heartbeat. There was nothing. So I left him, went over to the other guy. So I did pretty much the same exact thing. Checked him, ripped off his body armor, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
When you realize they're dead, what do you do?
Well, I just kind of said a prayer over both of them.
And the quote is, God watch over him, guide him to where he needs to be, take care of his family.
Mm-hmm. So after that, I kind of, the D-boys the whole time, they just want to get everybody off the roof. And when I was doing the prayer, I just ignored them, It was like, gathered up everybody's weapons that was left.
You got to get the bodies off the roof. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
The D-boys picked the bodies up and dumped them over the side of the roof. Maybe that's not the right description, but they got them off the roof the most expedient manner, and by doing that, it was just throwing them over the edge of the roof to get them down. I just leave that to each person's decision on, whether right, wrong, indifferent, but I know that it's not something you want to see.
Turned on the news, and there it was. 4 Americans had been dead and 2 were unidentified. And I'm like, he hasn't called me. I tried texting him. I tried calling him. Began to cry, and I just hit my knees and prayed.
In past experience, if I start panicking right away, then I just get myself worked up. So I just tried to not worry about it. And I thought, well, I'll hear from him in the morning or the next evening.
There was a ticker on the bottom of whatever news channel it was, and it said something to the effect that there was an attack on the annex in Benghazi. And my heart dropped, and I'm like, gosh, how am I going to tell the kids? And that was my first reaction.
Let me take you to when the bigger convoy arrives.
Yeah.
They finally get there. It's like 50 cars.
Yeah.
There's technicals, which are the big mounted machine guns.
It was a mean convoy. Remember the first vehicle coming in? I had my gun on him. I had eyes on. I mean, right at his head. And I just reached my hand off with my offhand, and I went like this, and he reached out the car and did a big smile. And one thing that we've learned on these jobs is you have to know how to read people.
But is there a part of you guys that looked at that convoy and said, where was that?
Yeah.
Where was that before?
Yes, I mean, I did. I'm like, where the hell were these guys? Where were they?
Hours ago.
Exactly.
You get everybody mounted up. You're driving to the airport in this massive convoy, but still probably worried about attacks on the way.
Sure.
You get there, and there's another confrontation
between the militias, our militia, and then whoever militia was controlling the airport, and we were the bigger militia, so we got through.
You have a smaller airplane. It's not exactly big for everybody. Load you guys up, or you walk on.
They started to pull me off, and I'm like, I walked into Benghazi. I'm going to walk out of here, and I get up, slide to the edge, and stand up. There's still blood dripping down my arm, and because it was a private jet, there was a flight attendant there, and her eyes just get as big as saucer plates, and she's laying towels down because she's worried about her boss's airplane getting messed up. And then they bring in Dave, and he was in and out of consciousness throughout the flight. And somewhere in between that, somebody's clearing their gun, their pistol.
In the plane.
Yeah.
In the plane. And a round goes off. And the pilot is, he wasn't going to take off till they could confirm that whether or not the fuselage had been breached.
But they figured it out.
It had lodged against one of the seat posts and didn't penetrate anything.
Dave Ubben, he was bleeding out. If there was another delay,
He probably wouldn't have made it because he was down to about as much blood as a person could lose before they die.
you're taking off in the plane. The rest of you guys are going to wait for the next plane.
Yes.
With the bodies and then eventually the body of Ambassador Stevens.
Yes.
I didn't answer it on the first ring. It rang a couple times because I wasn't sure who it was going to be. If it was going to be him or if it was going to be some, you know, representative informing me of what had happened. I took a deep breath and I listened and I just said, okay, and I love you. And I probably didn't sleep much that night.
It was really brief. He just said, I'm okay, everything is okay, and click, he hung up. So it was super quick.
Finally, it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. A nurse from Untold had called and said that he had arrived there, and so I was just like I could breathe. And just thank God.
Would you do it all over again?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'd be there.
That's just the way we are.
We run to it. We're not running away from it.
How often do you get back to this 13 hours? Do you think about it a lot?
Every day you think about it. There ain't a day that you don't.
I mean, I'm reminded of it every time I go to grab something.
With your hand?
Yeah, because I still don't have full use of it. Probably never will have full use of it. I mean, so it is a reminder. But it reminds me of the honor of fighting with guys like Tig and Tonto and Roan and Bub and Jack and DB. Very few times in your life will you get to form a bond like this, and most of the time it's done in situations that suck. But you know, I wouldn't give it up.
When you see all of the back and forth that has happened over the past roughly 2 years, what do you think about all the political battle and that sort of thing?
You can't get it wrapped up in it, because we're not politicians. You know, we're contractors, we're soldiers, we were Marines, Rangers. We still are. You know, we'll always be. So leave that to the politicians. I can't speak for why a politician did this or why a politician did that. All I can speak for is what we went through that night and what happened.
If I gave you that 30 minutes back and I gave you some air power, would Ambassador Stevens and Sean Smith be alive today?
Yes. To me, if without the delay, they would still be alive. My gut is yes.
You in on that?
I'd strongly believe if we'd have left immediately, they'd still be alive today.
I think there's a lot of things could have been different. I mean, air power, if we had some air support, if they'd have sent somebody in.
The Spectre, in my opinion, can see heat signatures, and, you know,
they would be able to see the mortar team.
They would be able to see the mortar team setting up.
Which means that Roan and Bub would be alive.
Would it have improved our chances? Oh, heck yeah. I said to myself, as soon as my baby girl says she doesn't want me doing this anymore, I'm going to stop doing it. And she did on my last trip to Yemen. She goes, Daddy, I don't want you to go fight bad guys anymore. Granted, I still miss the guys. I miss going overseas. But every night when I go upstairs and I get to kiss my kids goodnight, it all dissipates.
Just like to enjoy being home, me and the wife just together, the kids, and it's just peaceful. Is that fun?
Yes.
Wanna do it again?
Not having my thumb that opposes, it's very difficult to pick things up. And it's one of those things you don't really think about until you don't have it anymore. Oh, you like the red one? Okay. You want me to hold your baby? Co-op down there? Yeah. $1.25.
Thank you, Lord, for this food. And we just thank you that we're here with our friends. And just watch over us and keep us safe, and God bless us.
Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. I think of Tyrone and Bub every time I read that.
They're still part of the team.
They're always there.
They're just somewhere else right now. I mean, eventually, I guess we'll all link up again someday.